Now then, lads, welcome back, and today is a bit of an unscripted video. Basically, on the Reddit, they've put out an open letter to the developer team and the management of Darkflow about the current state of Enlisted. And I literally saw this whilst I was out shopping, and I thought, hey, this is actually really interesting. Because as of recently, a video that's probably going to go out later today about the Panzer IV-G, I wanted to do a video complaining about the matchmaking and how I personally think it needs to change, but I wanted to have a read through this letter, see what it's like, see what it says, and basically see how good it is. So, let's get into it. Okay, so this open letter is a request from the player base of Enlisted in regards to the health and direction of the game. This letter is a result of many forum posts, Reddit posts, official Discord discussions, and bug reports. So basically, this is, from what I understand, this was written by a huge variety of people, from new players all the way to, like, veterans who, like, bought into the Moscow campaign when you had to pay for that, which I didn't, but I thought we'd have a look at this. So, community engagement. This is interesting. Basically, what a lot of people are talking about here is the transparency of it. Personally, I don't see this as big of a problem. I do agree on a few things here. I agree on the fact that the Steam release was absolute disaster, obviously. But you know, I'm willing to have a look at this. So consistent developer blogs. I don't hate that. I like that idea. I think that's pretty good. I don't really think that the updates come out of the void. A lot of the stuff they do, the major stuff they do hint to at least, but I would like the idea of way more transparency involving it. I like that, and I like the idea of people having a better idea for the actual future of it. As for the priority list of major bugs, I like this. It would be nice to not only know that big and like major bugs are actually being dealt with, but also know when it's going to be coming, and the fact that they don't really, actually give us a timeline of what major bugs and fixes are going to take time. And they do bring up a few things here, such as the implementation of bonuses for players queued any faction, that you could get pushed into, and that's been promised since beginning of the merge. Hell, that idea's been around since like the campaigns, since before Japan. The super Pershing that's been promised and still not implemented. I imagine that's a bit more of a balancing issue though. But yeah, as for the impact, I think it's nice knowing that when to expect the major fixes. That would be a nice ability to have. Also, there's this, the new player experience. This is something that I agree with. Essentially, they are arguing that there's no really good tutorials, and it doesn't really explain anything to them, and I agree with this. The tutorial videos they've put out are not bad, but they're not perfect, and I do believe there needs to be a bit more meat to it. I like the idea of more tutorials in the game, such as walkthroughs and videos. I like that. That's a good idea. And I like the fact that new players don't have to rely on the ideas of third-party sources. I think there's a lot of core mechanics that you just have to learn to pick up, especially with playing classes like Engineer. Stuff like effective positioning, how to effectively use all of the Engineers' toolkit. I think you could also argue it for tanks as well, because I know a lot of people call Enlisted War Thunder with infantry, but I think there is definitely a huge difference between the vehicle combat in Enlisted and War Thunder, and I don't think that's really explained as well, especially in terms of tanks. And stat card overhauls, that'll be interesting. Actually showing the hidden modifiers and stuff like that. I'd love dispersion values, because by God, that would be nice to see. Because I hate bullet dispersion in any game, but it would be nice to be able to know how fucked it really is. Now onto a bit that I'm a bit iffy on, which is kamikaze plane cycling and tank cycling. Basically, this is a fairly decent problem and an idea that they've come up with, which is essentially that it's way too easy to kamikaze plane revenge strike, and it's way too easy to just cycle between other tanks. So I do agree this is a problem, but I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of these as it is. So for the Force 1 infantry spawn, this is the one I think is the best. I think it makes the most sense, and it would force them to actually help and fight. I like this. This is a good idea. But as for cooldown times, I don't like it. I'm not the biggest fan of cooldown times for vehicles. I feel it is a bit more unnecessary, but I could see it implemented. And as for the experience requirements, I think the problem with this is that once you get that much XP, a lot of people who are in tanks will essentially just get the XP back, in other words. Because I imagine this means more in battle points, and 1,000 is a lot. I just want to point that out. 1,000 is a lot more than you think. I know a lot of people who don't often get to 1,000 in a game, which I think would make tanks completely rarely seen in lower games, in lower tier games, which I don't really like. I think experience requirements is not a brilliant idea, and if they were, they need to be leveled towards the tanks. Like, I could see 1,500 being for, like, I don't know, tier 5, but not like tier 1. I don't think anyone wants, like, 1,500 XP so they can spawn in their T60. But I get why it's there to have active participation. But I think the problem for that is more that I think the vehicle problem is more based around people bringing in multiple squads of them and cycling that way. I don't think it's about teams constantly spawning them in as much. I think it's more one good player bringing in a lot of tanks. Because as someone who used to do that, it is a big problem. But I think the best one out of this is the Force 1 infantry spawn. That I actually really like, and I think that could be the fix. Grey Zone tanks. This is actually something that I am very much in favour of changing these. So basically the argument here and the solutions is to enhance the AT guns and give them better cannons. Also, the ability to remove the HE ammunition from them. I don't know how I feel about that. I get why, but at the same time, it would mean Engineer can only have one extra... it would only have one anti-infantry weapon, which is the machine gun. And I'd argue the machine gun is not as good. There is only 14 rounds. I think the easiest fix would be to just not have the Engineer have the ability to refill it, or have the refill be quite expensive. I think would be a better option. Okay. The next one is to revise rocket artillery mechanics. Now, I haven't tried these. I don't have any of them. But I do like the idea of it being a precision strike to kill tanks. That's a really nice idea that would force grey zoning tanks to change. And then there's incentivized tanks on the objective, which I personally don't like the idea of. Enlisted's meant to be an infantry-focused game. I think this would make tanks too important, and I think that would be a bit of a problem. I think it's worth pointing out a proposed solution I would have for grey zone tanks would be to change the maps in a way using props that would make grey zoning harder. I think that's the best option. Would be to focus more on maps and fixing them that way, rather than changing how they work, mechanically. But I think the best one here will be the rocket artillery, and I do like the idea of having better anti-tank guns at later rolls. I do agree with that, though. Lack of effective infantry countermeasure against planes. Yes, brilliant. That's really good. The idea of enhancing the AA gun performance. Yes, bring back the old flak thieveling. For those of you who aren't aware, all of the AA guns got standardized, and originally they all used to be the 4-barreled German flak thieveling. I think that's what it's called. But basically, that thing was really good. And then they got rid of it. And I think bringing them back and having them tear up as well would be a lot better. And also having them way more ammo and reducing the overheating rate. I agree with all of this. This is I like the idea of this. There is also the option of potentially adding AA tanks, but obviously that's a whole other issue, so I won't get too much into that. Then there's the silver model. Oh my god, yes! As I've been working on getting the reserve update videos out, I've had to make new selections for my soldiers. It has been hell, the amount of money I've had. I've spent easily 100,000 silver, and that's just like getting half of a full squadded German troop with their weapons. It's way too expensive. So this, I believe, is this is a chart looking at all of the upgrades of guns and how much silver it costs. 229 games is wild. I know this is also doing gun upgrades, which is something that I don't normally do gun upgrades, but still, that's wild. That's actually wild. That's crazy. Like, this isn't feasible for anyone unless you've been playing for years and you just happen to have all that money. I think that's crazy. Like, 57 hours of playtime, that's wild. So what are the solutions? Additional experience for core game mechanics. I like that idea. That would be a good idea. In all fairness, the way I think also Premium Squad. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think Premium Squad has an impact on money. And it should. It absolutely should. Money is just the equivalent of XP, and especially since now, to actually get a lot of stuff, you need to have the tanks and stuff. I think it's wild. Yes, I am 100% in favour of a lot of the ones here. Silver booster multipliers, that's a good idea, and a skill bonus system focused on objectives rather than kills. I like that. Having an objective-centric gameplay. Yeah, this is good, but I think this is like only... I think a lot of these are meant to be feasible things. I think in the long term, silver needs cut prices completely, and it needs to be made way better. I mean, like, 3,000 a game is just not achievable for most new players. I think you need to be getting like 10,000 a game. Kind of, for like, if you're in the top half, like 4,000 maybe if you're in if you come first in like a longish match is just not enough. So yeah, I agree. Lack of a social system. I like this. I'm not hugely bothered about this, but I do understand that a lot of people would care a lot about this, and for community servers. Text communication channel in the lobby, that would be nice. An in-match invite system, that would be pretty good. A clan system, I'm not too bothered about that, but you know, a lot of people would enjoy that, and that would definitely get used. Improve custom server infrastructure. So I don't really play custom servers. I don't really know that. But still. I'm sure that'll be something a lot of people do. I also think the reactivation of voice chat, I think we need. For those you don't know, voice chat is in Enlisted. It's just deactivated. It doesn't work as far as I'm aware. And the game needs to either fix it or reactivate it. Because I think in a game like Enlisted, you need that voice communication. We definitely need that. Stack-based matchmaking. So this is interesting. So this is referring to stacking, which is where you'll have a fair amount of your mates in your team, which does often lead to more coordinated attacks, and often you get absolutely stomped. And I think I like the idea of a soft rule for stacks being prioritized to fight each other. I'm not a big fan of the soft-hard rule system. I think they should just be hard rules. But that's a whole other argument for another day. But I do agree with it being put in. So the idea of 4-man stacks, prioritized to fight other 4-man or 3-man stacks, that's good. That's good. I like that. Because it means, if you're actually going in with your mates, you have an actual challenge, which is good. And then mode redesigns. So I'm just going to go through each one here. Conquest mode, more XP. Yes. Holy crap. Yes. Conquest is the shortest mode. It's like normally done in under 10 minutes when one team gets 2 objectives. I cannot wait to see that. I'd also like to see it changed into more like the Reich Chancery. That's a map in Berlin with 5 points. And I think that should be the golden standard for Conquest. I think it's the best Conquest map. I think it's the most fun. And I think Conquest should be balanced around that rather than the 3 point capture ones instead. Reworking Armored Train. I like that. Now, a lot of this is going back to changing this. They want to basically make it so it's bomb. So instead of payload, you're basically trying to plant bombs on the train and stuff. I get this. I get why, but at the same time, I feel that kind of removes Armored Train. Like, the idea of to make the train stationary and longer, I'm not a big fan of. I think the whole idea of that is it's like payload. It's the most unique mode, but I don't think in its current state it's as awful. I do think it's annoying, but I think a lot of that is down to Silo Heights, the map itself, more than the actual train itself. And reworking the ticket mechanics in confrontation mode. This is an interesting one. I don't hate this idea. The idea of starting them with 1,000 tickets each and no ticket regeneration is interesting, but I don't really like it. This is the one that I find like the weirdest one. Like, I get why it's there. They don't want one team to just dominate, but I feel that's kind of confrontation, as depressing as it is. Anyway, restructuring the game's events. Oh my god, yes! I still remember the last time we all whined about it, and that was, well, whined, we were justifyingly complaining, where they wanted us to get 15,000 a day for, like, tier 1, basically, tank gevers. This is really nice. So, we also wanted to point out, doing more PvE modes. So, I'll get into solutions. Revise event structure, yes. Stage locking, I think, is a problem. I like the ones where you have 5,000 points and a bunch of ones and you just said to go get it. I like that. I do wish it was 2,500 instead, but yes. I like the idea of modifying them to get rid of the locking based on time. I think that's dumb. Also, but I don't like the idea of increasing it to 4 days. That's just it just bloats it. But I like that. More scoreboard events. Yeah, that's cool. I think there's been like 2 scoreboard events before that, and that was the Stalingrad and the Berlin one. There might have been another one. I don't remember. But they were cool. They were nice. But like they disappeared. And more reward categories. That's cool. Cosmetics, rare weapons or equipment, in-game type. I like a lot of the idea here instead of just more vehicles and more guns. And a permanent PvE mode. I think that's definitely up in the air. I'd like to see that, but I think that's going to be after a while. So the next bit is about content release imbalances. This is interesting. This is an interesting point, and I think it's a pretty good point. Basically, they're arguing that all of this, like, there's too many vehicles for too few guns. I agree. I think there is. A lot of these vehicles as well, like, we don't need the KV-1 we didn't need the H1, we didn't need the Jagdpanzer 4, the regular one. A lot of these we just didn't need, but it's cool that they're actually addressing them. A nation roughly equivalent by BR in releases are possible. Yeah, a 1-to-1 ratio is a good idea. Yeah, faction bias would get rid of it. I think it would be very nice. Because I think faction bias is a huge problem, especially right now. trying to record German content is not fun. Unique mechanics implementation. So this is interesting. So a lot of the new mechanics are paywalled or half-baked, like paratroopers, which aren't in the tech tree, which they should be. The USSR are the only ones with paratroopers that can swap primary weapons. That's a good point. Rocket artillery is stuck behind them in event squads. Drop tanks, yeah, oh my god, I forgot they're in the game, aren't they? And riders. Heavy mortars. I like a lot of this. Give them access to all squad types. I agree. I think paratroopers should be in the tree. I think motorbikes should be in the tree as well. Rocket artillery should have just been added to all all infantries anyway as a default one. I think that's dumb that it's not. And yeah, it would mean that people who, like, say, play Japan, for example, they don't have to feel like, oh, we're not getting all of the content. That's good. And unique mechanics such as the paratroopers, drop tanks, and the rockets. I like that. Yeah, good idea. Map variety. Ah, yes, you are right about this. More maps. I feel the problem with having one map, which is often a problem. More maps we need, because we need to have more abilities to have more shit to do. I think the problem is, like, I think even historically, it's such a jump going from Stalingrad to fucking Berlin. That cuts out a lot of stuff. I am excited to see that change. And then the addition of an Asia/Oceania service. This is way overdue. Yes, we need that. And then squad access. Single squad. So this is basically locking a lot of stuff with. Yeah, I see that. The idea of having them all one BR instead of having BR split among squads. Limitations on squads, not a bad idea. But at the same time, it will be, I think, quite overwhelming still. And then rerunning events, I agree with that completely. I think, like, for a birthday thing, where you could, like, do an event and you get a ticket and you're like, right, you can go, like, pick which event squad do you want to buy up, and that'll be cool. And then booster selection. You just drag the system from War Thunder. This game shares so much shit with War Thunder, why can't you do that? Darkflow. And customization improvements. Yeah, the nationality I agree with, and the ability to customize themselves would be nice. And free-to-play vehicle customization, adding it in, like, stuff would be nice. So yeah, I think overall, this is a really nice letter. I agree with a large amount of it. There's a few bits I'm a bit iffy on, but I think overall, if you agree with this, they have a Google form you can fill in. Yeah, so it's on here. It's on the Reddit. Down here is a Google Forms where you can fill in all of this. So yeah, go do that. Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye.